The night possessed an almost cinematic stillness, as if the world itself were holding its breath before the climax of a suspense film. In the quiet confines of my suburban American kitchen, I sat at the table enveloped in darkness, staring at the unlit stove. The clock mocked me. The time had long passed the hour when Ashley would typically return home. This wasn't mere speculation, I knew precisely where she was and who accompanied her. Yet, the reason behind it all still eluded me. 15 years of marriage, 15 years of shared laughter, private jokes, habitual routines, heated arguments, heartfelt reconciliations, and dreams of an unbreakable future, had led me to this moment. I believed I understood Ashley completely, the soft, almost musical snorts that escaped her when laughter overtook her, the way her lips would press into a delicate pout when she concentrated. I even thought we could finish each other's sentences. How wrong I was. People master the art of wearing masks so flawlessly that even the one lying beside you every night remains oblivious to the truth. Perhaps, deep down, that was exactly who she had been all along, a carefully constructed illusion, a stranger cloaked in the guise of a wife. The word fraud crashed over me like a cold slap. A fraud whose choices, inevitably, carried dire consequences. I did not stumble upon this betrayal by chance. No, it was served to me on a silver platter of bitter irony. Ashley's paramour, Jake Parker, was someone I had once called my best friend. How peculiar trust can be, an open invitation for treachery. I spent the better part of the day piecing together the puzzle, whispered phone calls, furtive text messages, her sudden girls' nights out, and finally, an inadvertent slip from someone unwittingly exposing her secret. Every timestamp, every message, every screenshot, I gathered it all. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone, I needed it for what was to come. By day, I served as a sergeant with the Redfield Police Department. Ironically, I was scheduled for duty tonight. When I informed Captain Pete Stevens, a man as unyielding in emotion as concrete, that I needed personal time off, he merely grunted, "Sort your problem out. Just don't make it a headline." So I waited, stewing in the house I had built and paid for, a home now tainted by their betrayal. The sound of keys scraping in the lock shattered my brooding thoughts. The door swung open, and in stumbled Ashley and Jake. Ashley's laugh, now laced with the harsh edge of cheap wine, and Jake's smug, familiar tone filled the space. "Damn, it's dark in here," Ashley murmured, a giggle escaping as Jake retorted, "The lights don't matter, babe. We don't need them for what we're about to do." A voice from somewhere in the shadows, almost a whisper, announced, "Tyler will be home by 10:45. That brief statement was all it took to set my resolve ablaze. As I observed their silhouettes merging in a kiss that churned my stomach, my hands tightened beneath the table. It wasn't merely the betrayal I felt, it was the shock of truly witnessing it, hearing the dulcet tones Ashley reserved only for him, a voice I hadn't heard in years. "We should have gone to your hotel," she cooed in a tone that dripped seduction. "Tyler will be home soon, this barely gives us time." "Don't worry, I'll make it up to you tomorrow night," Jake replied, his arrogance a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. Ashley's flirtatious nudge toward the kitchen signaled her plan, "I'll grab some wine, you head upstairs." I remained motionless, sinking further into the shadows as Jake staggered toward the fridge in search of the light switch. His muttered complaint about the layout of my kitchen forced a bitter laugh from deep within me. When he finally succeeded in opening the fridge, he retrieved a bottle of wine. His voice echoed as he directed, "Ashley, where are the glasses?" "Top right cupboard next to the dishwasher." Her airy reply, "Right here," mingled with the clink of glass as Jake poured the wine. Then, as Ashley descended the stairs in a sheer, deliberately provocative black outfit, designed, it seemed, for eyes not meant for mine, I felt something awaken within me. It wasn't just anger, it was something primal, cold, and unyielding. Jake's gaze burned with the confidence of a man who believed he'd struck gold. Quietly, I shifted into position. My baton, securely tucked behind the china cabinet, now rested comfortably in my hand. With the precision born of years on the force, I flipped a hidden switch that flooded the room with brilliant light. "Hope I'm not interrupting," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. A piercing scream from Ashley shattered the silence. Jake froze, his wine glass slipped from his grasp, shattering against the floor. "Tyler, Ashley," she gasped, hastily covering herself as if modesty had suddenly become an afterthought. Jake's face turned ashen. "Jesus Christ, man, he began, but I wasn't having any of it." In one swift motion, my baton connected with his knee, sending him crashing to the ground with a sickening thud. He clutched his leg, groaning, a man now caught between pain and the shock of his actions. I stepped over him, baton still in hand, and fixed my gaze on Ashley. She retreated toward the stairs, trembling, her hands still clutching at what remained of her now pitiful ensemble. "Tyler, please," she pleaded, her voice quivering, "let me explain." I echoed her request, my tone even yet laced with ice. "You really think there's an explanation that can justify this? Please, Ashley, I'm dying to hear it." She remained silent, her eyes flitting to Jake as he struggled to sit up, his attempts to speak muffled by the trickle of blood from his nose. I crouched beside him, our faces mere inches apart. "Save it, Jake. If you even think about concocting some lie to justify what's happening, I swear I'll find another reason to finish the job tonight." His feeble protest dissolved into a gesture of surrender. Turning back to Ashley, I advanced, my voice rising for the first time. "For 4 long years, you two have orchestrated these secret rendezvous, for years of meticulously planned business trips, timed perfectly with my shifts. That wasn't a coincidence, it was malicious intent." Her face drained of color as I continued pacing. "Thanks to Jake's stupidity with his phone and your careless texts, yes, that adorable nickname you gave him, everything fell into place." "Ashley," she stuttered. Jake attempted another protest, but one violent slam of my baton near his head silenced him instantly. "Here's the deal," I said, crouching down once more. "You're lucky I locked my service weapon away tonight, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. Both of you would be splashed across every headline by now." Jake's eyes widened in horror. "Tyler, come on, man," he started, but before he could finish, I slammed my baton onto the floor next to his head, eliciting a violent flinch. "You didn't mean for this to happen, you were lost in the moment. Save your excuses for someone who cares. And Ashley? Don't even think for a moment that there's any explanation that makes this okay." Her lip trembled as she stuttered, "Tyler, I. "Enough," I interrupted, my tone soft yet venomous. "For 4 years, you meticulously arranged these secret liaisons, every single business trip wasn't an accident, it was calculated. And all those texts, all that planning. I know everything. You thought you could hide behind lies, thinking your marriage was secure, that I wouldn't discover the truth. You insulted me with your deception." Jake coughed out a feeble protest, but one look from me silenced him completely. "Let me be perfectly clear," I hissed, "if either of you dare contact Ashley or try to twist this narrative, I'll ensure you regret it. Every single betrayal has its price." His tear-streaked, swollen face offered only a weak nod in response. "Now," I commanded, standing and seizing Jake by the collar, dragging him to the center of the room. "You thought you could waltz into my town, disgrace my marriage, and then saunter off to your own life as if nothing happened? Did you imagine I wouldn't find out?" Jake tried to speak, but his words were mumbled through pain and shock. "You're lucky I'm here," I murmured, "because if I weren't, your fate would have been sealed long ago." I then turned to Ashley, who crumpled into sobs on the stairs. "You thought this secret would remain hidden forever? You not only betrayed me, you humiliated me. Do you have any idea what it means when the life you built together turns out to be a lie?" I crouched beside Jake again, leaning in with a low, menacing hiss, "If you so much as consider reaching out to Ashley or spinning any twisted version of these events, I promise you, I'll make sure you never recover." Weakly, Jake managed a nod through tears. Good, I said, rising to my full height. Now, get out of my house. With a desperate scramble, he attempted to stand, but his knee buckled. Limping toward the exit, he left a trail of crimson on the carpet. At the door, as his trembling hand gripped the knob, he paused. Tyler. I could press charges. Assault is assault, he rasped. I let out a humorless, dark laugh. Go ahead, Jake Parker. File your report. I'll make sure every officer from this town to half the state knows why your face is in pieces. And as for your wife, Rebecca, she'll soon receive an anonymous package containing every incriminating message between you and Ashley. I'll deliver it personally. Do you really want to play this game? Defeated, his grip slackened, and he finally hobbled out, leaving behind a silence punctuated only by Ashley's muffled cries. I approached her, baton still in hand. She flinched as I drew near, her body curling defensively. Go upstairs, I ordered coolly. Change out of that disgraceful outfit and go to bed. I don't want to see you tonight. She hesitated, lips trembling. Tyler, I cut her off. Enough. Now move. Barely a moment later, she bolted up the stairs, her sobs echoing through the now desolate house. Standing alone in the doorway amid shattered glass, a blood-stained carpet, and the lingering stench of betrayal, I realized my work was far from over. The following day, I began making calls. My first call was to Rebecca, Jake's wife. Her bright, unsuspecting voice answered on the second ring. Hi, how's Ashley? Is everything all right? Not exactly, I replied in a neutral tone. We need to talk. A heavy silence fell before she cautiously asked, what's wrong? I'm going to lay it out straight, I said. Your husband and my wife have been involved in an affair for 4 years. I have everything, texts, dates, undeniable proof. Rebecca's breath hitched sharply, followed by the quietest of sobs. You're serious, she managed. Dead serious, I confirmed. I've known long enough to plan our next steps. I'm sending you every piece of evidence. You can decide how to proceed. Through her shaky gratitude, she promised to act. And so, over the next week, I set the wheels in motion. I wasn't about to settle for a mere physical confrontation or a few bruises, they both needed to bear the full weight of their choices. For Ashley, the terms were clear, she arranged fabricated dates for me, a twisted form of retribution. I had no intention of engaging with these fictitious companions, the psychological toll on her was punishment enough. At first, she resisted, pleaded, even tried to paint me as cruel and vindictive. But when I reminded her calmly that every explicit detail of her affair would soon be public, she reluctantly agreed. Meanwhile, I wasn't finished with Jake either. Thanks to Rebecca's cooperation, I obtained his travel schedule. Every time he embarked on a business trip, I made it my mission to intercept him. At a budget hotel in Nebraska, I caught him returning from dinner, alone, though clearly intoxicated. Dressed in a hoodie and a ski mask, I pinned him against a wall with a series of swift, brutal strikes, a calculated knee to the groin, an elbow to the gut, and a well-placed punch to his cheekbone. Later, I found his car in the motel parking lot and, with deliberate precision, slashed 3 of its tires, leaving just enough for him to limp along without full insurance coverage. He never filed a police report. This pattern continued over the ensuing months, a quick, punishing reminder here, a bruised ego there. Jake, once so full of bravado, gradually became a shell of his former self. And every time, I would remind him, you'll never know when I'm going to show up, or where, but I will be there, and you will pay for every betrayal. Nearly a year to the day after that fateful evening, I sat in my recliner waiting for Ashley to return from the grocery store. The house was eerily quiet, punctuated only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator, a stark contrast to the cacophony of our once shared life. I had even swapped to the day shift, a decision that granted me more hours alone, a decision Ashley had loathed, for it stripped away her last vestiges of privacy. The front door creaked, and Ashley stepped in, grocery bags in hand. She set them on the counter and began, with a forced cheerfulness, recounting how busy the store had been and how the cashier had forgotten to double-bag the milk. When she finished, I summoned her to the living room. "Sit," I ordered, gesturing toward the couch. She hesitated before complying, smoothing her skirt as if to brace herself. "What's going on?" she asked softly. "I have something for you," I said, retrieving a letter from the side table. Her eyes flickered with a spark of hope as I handed her the envelope. She unfolded the papers, and as her face paled with each line, she gasped, "Petition for dissolution of marriage." "It's exactly as it appears," I said evenly, watching her hands tremble as she clutched the documents. "After everything I've endured, after every moment of betrayal, I'm ending this." Her head jerked upward, a mix of shock and betrayal in her eyes. "But, you said there were no other dates, that none of it was real?" I leaned forward, my voice calm yet searing. "I fabricated every single profile, every message you sent. It was all a test, to see if you'd follow through. And you did. You lined up these illusions as if managing a clandestine dating agency, all in a desperate attempt to salvage our marriage." Tears welled in her eyes as her voice cracked. "Tyler, I did it because I was terrified you'd hurt him again." I snapped, "Don't lie to me. I checked that secret phone in the closet, the one buried beneath your shoeboxes. It wasn't kept just for emergencies, it was your lifeline to him." She broke into sobs, clutching the divorce papers as if they were her last hope. "Please, Tyler, I'm sorry. I'll do anything, just give me another chance." I leaned back, studying her in the dim light. "No, Ashley. We're done. This house is mine, I built it with my own hands, and your meager earnings as a librarian won't cover what you once promised. You'll receive half the equity, your car, and your personal savings. That's final." "This isn't fair," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "After 15 years, I deserve more than this." "Fair?" I countered coldly. "You deserve far less. And if you choose to fight this in court, I promise you, I'll ensure every friend, family member, and coworker hears every sordid detail. You'll be dragged through the mud until there's nothing left." Her lips trembled as a car horn sounded outside. "Your sister's here to pick you up," I noted, nodding toward the door. "Take what you need for a few days, then come back for the rest when I'm at work." Her whispered plea, "Tyler," faded as she hurriedly gathered her belongings with the help of her sister, Emily. 45 minutes later, her car disappeared down the street, leaving behind a silence that was almost deafening. I stood in the empty house, amid shards of broken glass, a blood-stained carpet, and the lingering aroma of betrayal, and felt, for the first time in a long while, a sense of peace. Ashley and Jake had ruined 2 marriages, yet they would not ruin me. It was time to rebuild, to reclaim the life I truly deserved. In the days that followed, the house, once filled with the clamor of a shared life, TV chatter, the hum of conversation, the occasional quarrel, fell into a quiet, almost reverent stillness. I took a week off work to clear my mind and sort through the debris of our former life. Dividing our shared belongings proved less complicated than anticipated. Ashley never truly fought the divorce terms, a quiet resignation had already enveloped her, as if she knew the war was lost before it even began. She moved in with her sister, Emily, God bless her for keeping the family together, while I began to rebuild. I transformed the guest bedroom, where I had once slept alone for over a year, into my sanctuary. I replaced the tired, mismatched furniture with modern, clean pieces, swapped the faded curtains for ones that welcomed more light and repainted the master bedroom a deep navy blue. The bed, once claimed by Jake as a trophy of conquest, was gone. It wasn't merely about erasing painful reminders, it was about reclaiming my space and, ultimately, myself. Therapy helped, too. Those dates I pretended to go on were, in truth, sessions with a compassionate therapist named Karen. She helped me untangle the wrath and sorrow lodged deep within me. "Revenge feels good, doesn't it?" she once remarked. "It does," I admitted, "but it never truly rebuilds anything." In time, I reconnected with old friends, people who had noticed the growing distance in our marriage, the subtle excuses, the way you became more entranced by your phone than by conversation. "You were blind, man," one friend had said over drinks. But I no longer harbored bitterness. The wound was healing, and love, once so familiar, now felt like a foreign language. Then, one evening, a package arrived. It came from Rebecca, a letter and a stack of divorce papers. Her note began, "Thank you for telling me the truth, even though it hurt. Jake and I are officially done, and I've moved out with the kids. It wasn't easy, but it was the right decision. I hope you're finding your way forward, too." I ran my fingers over the ink, contemplating the stark reality of change. In time, I sold the house, not out of despair, but because I realized I no longer needed all that space. I moved into a smaller, cozier place closer to work. And as fate would have it, Rebecca and I began talking, first casually, then with growing regularity. She was navigating single parenthood, and I was rediscovering life as a single man. We bonded over shared experiences, laughter, tears, and the absurdity of it all. As for Ashley and Jake, I heard through the grapevine that their union couldn't withstand the weight of their choices. Jake's bruised ego couldn't bear the fallout, and Ashley's guilt drove a permanent wedge between them. In the end, neither lasted. We all make our choices and then live with their consequences. And as I settled into my new life, quiet, solitary yet undeniably free, I couldn't help but feel that the storm had passed. I had reclaimed my home, my dignity, and ultimately, my future. This is my story, a raw, unfiltered account of betrayal, retribution, and the painful road to renewal.